Well, hello, hello. Thank you for joining us today at the 126 Collective. I'm super excited. I've been working on this lesson for about 3 weeks and it has evolved so much. I've got as many notes scribbled on the handout as there are words on the handout. So all bets are off if I stay on track today. But I'm super excited about it for so many reasons. I feel like this conversation has been coming up over and over and over again in my world, in terms of ministry and coaching over the last 3 weeks. So I have to believe it's a lesson that all of us must need. And today we're going to be talking about David and his mighty men. So most people are familiar with King David from the Bible. Even people who aren't believers know about David and Goliath, and that story, in its literal sense, has been told numerous times, and in its figurative sense, have has been used as a leadership or as a lesson, even for kids, for as long as I can even remember, about King David and how he overcame his fears to slay the giant. So you can see that's a pretty easy one to use for a teaching. And you guys have heard me talk about this on our sessions in the past. I'm a big fan of The House of David, which is has been made and is being shown on Amazon Prime. So if you haven't checked it out, seasons 1 and 2 are available. And certainly they are based on the story. Now, since I'm pretty much a Bible nerd and study the Bible as much as I can, I would say that my husband will ask me, "Is that in the Bible?" And sometimes I have to go look it up, but I think they've done a phenomenal job. But of course, it's storytelling and it's entertainment, it's television, so there have been some liberties taken, as there have to be, because not all every scene is not set in scripture. So they've done a great job. For kids, the movie David, the animated cartoon that came out, I guess last year, is also phenomenal, and I've seen that several times with my grandkids. So his story is one that has been told so many times over time. But today I want to look at a little bit different angle than you might often see when you hear about David, and that's about who he was as a leader and how he built his mighty men. And so the I want to talk about, and I've got so many examples to share today, but I want to talk about what I have there on the handout is that great leaders multiply their influence by excuse me, developing people before they're needed. Intentionally developing people before they're needed. Let me pull up this handout so I can share that with you. And what I should have added is intentionally developing the right people before they're needed. And so we're going to talk about that. I have a client team that I work with that has been desperately seeking someone to come in and take over from an operational standpoint for them. And we'll talk a little bit more about this as we talk today, because I got some incredible feedback today from them, so I can share that with you all. But they kept bringing me people that were certainly wonderful people. Many of them they knew personally, they were people that were a part of their world. They liked the people, and I'm sure they're great people. This is nothing about that. But they were not the right people for their organization. And so, I talk a lot about the DISC, the DISC, and that is an incredible relationship, communication, people development tool that I've been using for over a decade now. And the tool itself is about 100 years old. And so it does a pretty good job. It's got some staying power, and it does a pretty good job of kind of helping you determine whether or not the person that you're thinking about hiring for your team is the right person based on the way that they make decisions, how they pace themselves, and how they communicate. Anyway, so this team kept bringing me all these great people that they really liked. But here's a rule, and you probably have seen this in your own life. People like people that are like them. right? I can probably tell a lot about your friends just by getting to know you. And so the same thing, you could probably tell a lot about my friends just by getting to know me because people like people that are like them, which may be fantastic for friends, doesn't necessarily work when you're building a team. So it's about developing the right people. And so I have done DISC assessments on numerous people that this team brought. And fortunately for them, they actually took the coaching. And so many of the people that they would have hired, we'll talk about this as we go today, but that they would have hired in the past, they did not hire. And so finally, they brought me someone that when I did their disc, it was the right person for this job, or at least it should be. And so they hired that person and are seeing phenomenal results. So just this morning, I got the great pat on the back. It feels great to get the pat on the back, but more importantly, it was validation that yes, doing the work to find the right people. Now their goal is to intentionally develop that person, but they finally chose the right person. So if I were redoing this handout, that's what I would put there. So let me set the scene. Um, David has fled from King Saul. King Saul was the first king that arose in Israel. The Israelites, we've studied some of the judges in our previous sessions, but the judges had been, if you will, the civic rulers and the political rulers and the warfare, I guess, rulers, the military rulers, excuse me, for the Israelites, and it just wasn't enough. So the Israelites go to Samuel, who was one of their prophets, and said, "Look, we want a king like all the other nations." Now, God warned them, like, that's not, you better be careful what you wish for because you don't really want this, but they insisted. So God told Samuel, give them a king, and Saul was that king. Saul had the potential to be a great leader. He was head and shoulders taller than everybody else. He was good looking. He was influential. He was charismatic. And unfortunately, his ego got the best of him. And God decided to replace him with David. Now, this hasn't happened yet. When Saul figures out that David is the anointed one, even though David was a great warrior, he had slayed Goliath, he had led thousands of men into battle and had some incredible wins there. Saul's jealousy enrages him and he begins to go crazy. So he pursues David, and David has to flee, and he's living in caves. And so he's got all of these guys living with him, about 400 men. They're living in caves. These guys are people who are distressed, in debt, and discouraged. These are not the elite. They're not the elite of the Israelite culture. But David invested in them. And so these men became known as David's mighty men. These are the warriors. And so David didn't inherit a great leadership team. He built one. And that's what I want to talk about today. Interesting side note, though, when you think about a great leader in history who initially surrounded himself with a group of people that were not the elite of their time. I don't know about you. I think of Jesus. And we certainly think of his followers, in particular, a certain group of 12. Remember, there were 12, then there were 11, then they added one back in. So those 12 guys become known, and we're still studying them today. But so, it's not that Jesus or David inherited this great leadership team. They had to build them. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Now, the reality here, and bear with me as I do my best to read. Today I got these names that I did look up. I tried to get some help online for reading them. They're not all available to be learned that easily, but I'm going to do my best today. But you can learn about these men in the books of First Chronicles, chapter 11 and 12, and also in the book of Second Samuel, chapter 23. I'm going to do a little bit of a mixed reading today, and I'm reading from the ESV, the English Standard Version. So in First Chronicles 11:10, we read, "Now these are the chiefs of David's mighty men who gave him strong support in his kingdom, together with all Israel, to make him king according to the word of the Lord concerning Israel. And in 2 Samuel 23, verses 8 through 17, these are the names of the mighty men whom David had: Josheb Bashhebath, a Techemonite. He was chief of the three. He wielded his spear against 800 whom he killed at one time. And next to him, among the three mighty men, was Eleazar, the son of Dodo, son of Ahohai. He was with Israel when they defied the Philistines who were gathered there for battle, and the men of Israel withdrew. He rose and struck down the Philistines until his hand was weary and his hand clung to the sword. And the Lord brought about a great victory that day, and the men returned after him only to strip the slain. And next to him was Shammah, the son of Agi the Hararite. The Philistines gathered together at Lehi, where there was a plot of ground full of lentils, and the men fled from the Philistines. But he took his stand in the midst of the plot and defended it and struck down the Philistines, and the Lord worked a great victory. And 3 of the 30 chief men went down and came about harvest time to David at the cave of Adullam, when a band of Philistines was encamped in the valley of Rephaim. David was then in the stronghold, and the garrison of the Philistines was then at Bethlehem. And David said longingly, "Oh, that someone would give me water to drink from the well of Bethlehem that is by the gate." Then the 3 mighty men broke through the camp of the Philistines and drew water out of the well of Bethlehem that was by the gate, and carried and brought it to David, but he would not drink of it. He poured it out to the Lord and said, "Far be it from me, O Lord, that I should do this. Shall I drink the blood of the men who went at the risk of their lives?" Therefore he would not drink it. These things the 3 mighty men did. So that's just a couple of pieces there of this larger body of scripture that talks about David's mighty men. And so what we're going to talk about, and what I want you to notice, is that it is a collective strength that each of these men that are described, and there's more detail should you go back and read more around this, they each had different strengths, but it was collective strength that made them mighty. And remember, all of that is under David's leadership. So I think that's important for us to remember when we think about finding the right people. It's not just finding the right people. It's not just developing the right people. It's then becoming the leader that those right people need to become the team that each of us, would want to be a part of if we're not building it ourselves. So David's story reminds us leadership is never built alone. I want you to understand these are distinct competencies that David found in these mighty men that you would do well to find for yourself. So our leadership principle today, and we do have a couple of them that I really want to draw on, but the one that I want to draw your attention to first is the law of the inner circle. John Maxwell says that the law of the inner circle says those closest to you determine the level of your success. Tony Robbins says it this way: proximity is power. Proximity is power. So what I would say to follow up with that is be careful. Be careful who you're in proximity with. Remember, our parents weren't wrong when they said you're known by the company you keep. They weren't wrong. We hated that when they said it. I don't know if you did in high school, but they were correct. We are known by the company we keep. So we have to be careful who we're in proximity with. So every leader eventually reaches a point where vision exceeds capacity, exceeds their personal capacity. And so my question for you today would be to reflect on where in your business have you, maybe at some point in the past, gotten to that place where what you desired, what your vision was, what your goals were, exceeded your ability to achieve it on your own. So if that's happened in the past, then you've likely already built a team. Now, is it the right team? I don't know. That's going to be something for you to reflect on today. But if you haven't gotten there yet, then you likely will at some point. you'll get to the point in your career, in your business, where the goals that you set, the vision that you have for your business outweighs your ability to do that on your own. Now, if that doesn't happen, then it's likely one of two things. Either one, you're not dreaming big enough, right? Or two, you're just not there yet. You're not there yet. And my assumption is that most of the people that would tune in for teachings like this are people that actually do have bigger goals. I did yesterday. I facilitated the leadership game with a group of leaders in St. Augustine, Florida. It was a wonderful event, but it was a group of leaders. So these are people who are leaders as salespeople in the organization they're affiliated with and the leadership team of that organization. And so one of the questions that came up was, what are the 1 to 2 things you need to change in the next 12 months to get closer to your goals? Strangely enough, more than, and this was a group of 10 leaders, about half of them included in that, because I had them write it on a sticky note and then I collected them to see if there were any similarities or common, ideas. And about half of them wrote, I got to get clear on what I want. And I thought that was interesting because that's a group of leaders. You would think you wouldn't end up in a position of leadership if you didn't know what you were looking for. So I thought that was pretty telling because that tells me that maybe the last few years, these people have been responding to the opportunities that have come to them, and they're not taking time to sit back and reflect and envision what might be next. So I thought that was good, and I wanted to share that because if your vision has not exceeded your personal capacity, then you're either not thinking big enough or you're just not really clear on what you want. So that might be a call to action for you there. So, David was a great king. Was he perfect? Of course not. Right? I can give you one name that will help you reflect and remember on David's greatest failure, and that name is Bathsheba. Right? So we all know what happened when David didn't go into battle with his warriors, but stayed behind and let his wandering eyes lead him to a pathway of death and destruction. He was redeemed because he was humble and repentant, but he wasn't perfect. And so it's not like David is this just arises as a great leader and people from all over follow him. No, he showed up. He tried to serve King Saul, and King Saul tried to kill him. He was forced to flee and live in a cave, and then his family and ultimately these 400 plus men began to follow him there. So it wasn't that he was just this great charismatic leader. He was surrounded by people who were loyal to him, who they themselves were courageous, and then who were gifted. Those men and women, I'm sure, strengthened his leadership and helped fulfill the calling that was placed on David's life. So I'm going to presume, for sake of our conversation today, that you have people around you already, whether you have a quote team, right? Whether you actually have people who work for you that are on your team, but you do have people around you, hopefully, that are there who can be loyal to you, who can show the courage that you need to have, who are gifted in different areas, and who can help you live into the calling that's been placed on your life. So who are they? Are they coaches? Are they mentors? Are they colleagues? Are they in similar businesses, different businesses? Are they people that you're working with or for right now yourself? Who are these people in your life? I want to get you thinking about it because in a few minutes I'm going to ask you to write down some names. So here's the point. Great leaders don't wait until they're overwhelmed to build a team. Right? They develop the people before they actually need them. Now, this can be interesting because the people that I work with professionally as a coach are small business owners. Many of them are realtors, but I also work with people from a number of other industries as well. but I love them. I don't know if you guys have seen this movie called The Boys on the Boat. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. I'm pretty sure it's still on Amazon Prime at this point, but it's based on the true story of an Olympic rowing team. And I cannot remember now if they're from Oregon or Washington State, but they end up competing in the Olympics in Nazi Germany. And so it's the story of this group of young men and how I don't want to give it away in case you haven't seen it yet, and how they show up to compete. And what I love about the movie and why I work with the kinds of people I work with is because in this little boat, every one of them is rowing together in the same direction. They have to do this as a team. No one can say that's not my job, because if these young men are not all rowing same stroke, same pace, right, same direction, you don't have a team. And so that's what I love about small business owners. You guys are all in the same boat, rowing in the same direction, and you got to work together. As opposed to a corporation, let's say, where there's different departments and maybe something's not your job. It is somebody else's job. That's just not the people that I coach. And I think it's because my spirit is like a small business owner. I want to be in a boat with a bunch of people who are all working together, to get where we want to go. So you can't wait until you're overwhelmed to build your team. But unfortunately, for most small business owners, that's exactly what happens. It's like, well, I can't afford to hire anybody. I don't need anybody right now. And so then you wait until you're overwhelmed. Your business has grown to the point that you do realize you've exceeded your personal capacity. And then it's very tempting to hire based on proximity, right? This team that I was mentioning earlier, as well as many other teams I've worked with over the last 16, 17 years, have had the same challenge. They wait until they're so busy that they absolutely need someone to relieve the pressure. And so they hire someone that's close to them. They're related to them. Maybe they go to church with them, they live in a neighborhood with them, they worked with them before, but it's somebody that they're in proximity to, and so they bring that person on. And then I'm sure they like that person. If they didn't, they wouldn't hire them. And I'm not suggesting that you run out and hire a bunch of people you don't like, but if that's what you're hiring based on, right? Desperation and proximity may not be the best person. So it happens all the time, because it can be confusing to figure out, how do I develop people? How do I build a team before I need one? So I want to challenge the thinking today a little bit to say, can you look beyond hiring and think about developing? Think about developing other people. So David, saw potential in the people that others overlooked. I mean, these guys were on the run. These guys were on the run. So just remember, people that you like are probably like you. That doesn't make them the right people for you to develop. So leadership isn't about doing more yourself. It's about developing people who can accomplish the mission together. Together, okay? And so I want to say this, and although I'm sure I butchered several of these names, and there are others if you go to this section of Scripture in the Old Testament, but Scripture names these people. It names these people. There's a reason. There's not one jot or tittle, not one, dash or line, not one word in the Bible that is not there intentionally. So the fact that those people are mentioned by name means we are to take note, because it is celebrating the people who strengthened David. And I think there's a lot there that you and I can learn about that. So when you think about this, and we've talked about this before, so here's a little test. Let's see if you pass, and you can put it in the chat. What level of leadership is this? We've talked about the 5 levels of leadership John Maxwell teaches. And there is a level where it's no longer just you. It's no longer just you and your people, but it's you pouring into your people. I don't know, does anybody remember what level that is? What level is it when you're pouring into your people? I'll give you a little hint. It's 4. It's 4, right? Level 1, position. People follow you because they have to. You're the boss. That's management, essentially, right? Um, Level two is permission. People follow you because they want to. They like you. It's great. I want you to be a likable leader. But if you have to be likable all the time, how easy is it going to be to give feedback, critical feedback to your team? How easy is it going to be to deliver bad news? It's not going to be easy. If you stay at level one, you have to be a tyrant. If you stay at level two, you got to be everybody's best friend. And you can't lead if you're everybody's best friend, right? Level three is production. This, in my 20 years of experience doing what I'm doing, having been a small business owner and now coaching small business owners, I will tell you this is the where most people that I have encountered and worked with, this is where they get stopped. This is where they get stuck. This is their ceiling. Level three is production. We're in it together, all for one and one for all. We all go out every day, we do some work, we come together, but the leader is in production, essentially. And so that's great, by the way. And remember, you never get to leave behind level one. You still got to be the boss. You don't get to leave behind level two. Nobody's going to work with you very long if they don't like you. But you can't get stuck at level three because level three requires you to be out doing all the things that everybody else is doing as well. It's not a bad place to be. It is a necessary part. They all fold into one another. But level four is people development. You got to get to the place where you're developing the people with around you. Because if you don't, guess what you never get to do? You never get to take a day off. You never get to think about bigger things. You never get to vision what might be next. You don't get to scale. There's a lot of things that just won't happen if you stay in level three. Okay. And so you have to learn to lead, and you do that by pouring into other people. That's level four. And that's what I read when I read the names of these people. It shows me that David has poured into them and they have become leaders of their own right. Um, so this is a challenge for level five is pinnacle. Pinnacle. Pinnacle leadership is the Jesus, Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi. These are the people that have books and movies and stories told about them. This is legendary leadership. Level five is that pinnacle where not only are you leading through all of the first four, but now you are setting the standard at a much higher level. So, like I tell my clients all the time, look, let's just get to four. Let's get to four. There's a select group of people that will be challenged to go to level five. If it's you, fantastic. I'll be like, hey, I knew you win. I can't wait to celebrate that. But truth be told, I'd love for you to just get out of three into four, or get out of one to two, and then two to three, and then three to four. So here's the challenge with so many small business owners. And, I'm one of you, so I get this. We build a personal brand, maybe the two worst words that have come out of the cultural and business zeitgeist of late. I'm a personal brand. And I remember when I heard those words, I didn't want it. I didn't want to be a personal brand, but this brand expert I hired said, well, that's what you are. And so most of my clients are also a personal brand. It doesn't even matter what your industry is. But when you become a personal brand, then of course you are going to attract people that you think will represent that personal brand if you build a team at all. And so that then by necessity means they need to be like you if you're the brand. So I get it. I'm not making light of how difficult it can be to understand. I got to build a diverse team, not a team of people that are just like me. And in fact, I can speak most experientially about the real estate world because I used to be a realtor and I do still coach a lot of realtors. That world really does promote the concept of the personal brand. Your name is the one on the sign. But I have clients in other industries and their name is the one on the sign as well. And so it can be a challenge to think, how do I let go of actually serving the client and instead serve my team so that they can serve the client. So I'm not making light of it. And I do acknowledge it's not as simple as just change your mind about it. It takes time. But I think all of you who are personal brands or small business owners understand that if your name's on the building, it takes a lot more reframing of your own mindset, a lot of coaching, a lot of growth, and a lot of time to get to that place where you can understand that the people you need to bring into your world need to do something different from you. And eventually, if you pour into them, they can represent you. There's Gary Keller, who's the founder of Keller Williams Realty, which is a gigantic real estate organization, says that no matter what you do and no matter how specialized it is, it can be systematized. And the standards that you represent can be taught to other people so that they can go out and represent your brand in the marketplace. So if you think it's all got to be you, you're stunted, right? There's a ceiling above you. So nobody succeeds alone. So the quality of your leadership is directly connected to the quality of the people closest to you. So great leaders don't simply build organizations, they build people. That's level 4 leadership. So let me go ahead and share my screen again because I want to look at some of these qualities that that John Maxwell says your inner circle should include. These are people who have integrity. They demonstrate loyalty. They pursue excellence. They bring strengths to the table that you do not possess. That is so important. They tell you the truth. They make you better as a leader. And then I would add in, they add value to you, right? You're going to add value to them, of course. But if they don't add value to you, then I would wonder why am I choosing these people, right? So I want you to be thinking right now, who are maybe the 5 people closest to you right now? And maybe you're saying, I don't have a team, nobody works for me. I'm a lone ranger here. Well, that's fine. There are people in your world that are speaking into you. So I want you to be thinking about these people. Maybe start to think of 5 people because I am going to ask you to write them down. And then maybe put a check if they are on your team. Put a circle if they're adjacent to your team, right? They're in your inner circle, but they're adjacent to you. They're not actually on your team, but a check mark if they are actually on your team. So these are the kinds of people that David surrounded himself with. These men had integrity. They demonstrated loyalty. They pursued excellence. They had strengths he didn't have. David didn't start out as a warrior, remember? He was a shepherd. He was good with a slingshot because he had to defend the sheep against the lions and the bears. Well, bears. I don't know if they had bears. They had lions. They had wolves, right? So he had to protect the sheep against those. There's a great line in House of David that Saul is teaching his daughter. She says, "Father," this is not in the Bible. This is extra biblical, but it's really good. She says, "Father, why do we fight?" And he said, "We fight because I am the shepherd and I have my sheep and I have to protect my sheep because the world is filled with lions and wolves. And if the shepherd doesn't fight the lions and wolves will destroy all the sheep, and then there will be no sheep." So it's a great lesson. It's an unfortunate part of living in a broken world, but the reason today that we fight is because the world is still filled with lions and wolves, and we need great shepherds, great leaders who are willing to protect and even fight if necessary. So these are the kinds of people that David surrounded himself with. And so when you have a great commitment to your people, then your people are going to deepen their devotion to you. And that's really what level 4 is all about. So let's look at what can we learn from David and his mighty men. So number one, I came up with four principles that I got from just reading this scripture. Number one, recruit for potential, right? You've got to look beyond resumes, even disc profiles. And I love using disc, but you got to look beyond all of that and recognize potential, right? So I want you to think for a moment, who in your world has potential that others may be overlooking? And this could be somebody, that you are in business with today. It can be people that you've done business with that are cooperating with the type of work that you do. It can be people on other teams. It can be people that you know personally. Because even if you're not ready to build your own team to advance your own vision, what if you just started mentoring and pouring into someone in your world that you see has great potential and maybe they're getting overlooked, right? I mean, ultimately, what if you never built your own team, but you helped other people become a better version of themselves? Would that not be worth? Don't you think it would help you build your own ability to lead if you were pouring into other people? So if you can think of someone right now, could be someone in your neighborhood, it could be someone in your family, it could be someone in your workplace. Um, is there someone you can think of that you see great potential in them? That and they may be getting overlooked that you can pour into. If you could think of that, write their name down. And I'm going to ask you to think about reaching out to them and offering them some time, take them for coffee, tell them what you see in them, and call them up. Remember, we talked about Abigail and David again a few sessions ago, and we talked about how she called David up into that higher version of himself. Number two, develop before you need. You can't begin developing your leadership skills during a crisis. We have a workshop at the John Maxwell team called Leadership Through Crisis. And where do you think that was born? It was born during COVID. Because some people had to learn to lead at a completely different way during COVID in ways that they never would have thought of in the past, because most of us were kind of going about our business, not really thinking that something like that could happen, even though it had been foretold, it had been predicted. There were movies made about it. And we all just sort of, do you guys remember all those movies that came out? I don't know when they would have come out, maybe in the early 2000s. V for Vendetta. There was one that was also about these pandemics or epidemics and things. Like there were all these scary movies that came out, and what did they say? Art imitates life, or life imitates art. So anyway, but most of us were kind of going along. So a lot of people had to sort of step up their game during that crisis, but that's not ideal, right? If your organization is healthy, you're always preparing future leaders. So my question for this one is, who are you intentionally developing right now? Who are you developing? And look, maybe you don't know how they fit in on your team, but maybe are actually mentoring someone. You're not really giving enough thought to that. Number three, honor loyalty. So in this particular story where David just says, like, I'm so thirsty, and these guys risk their lives to go get him water. And this is a confusing story to me because he says, I cannot drink this blood, this water that was gotten at the risk of the lives of these men. I cannot do it. And so he poured that out as a sacrifice before the Lord. And that's how much he honored his loyalty. Now, if I'm one of those guys, I'm like, are you joking right now? Like, I just risked my life to bring you this water and you dumped it out. But when you think deeper into it, the lesson is there, right? The sacrifice was too valuable to be treated casually. So great leaders value people more than what the people produce. So look within. How do you consistently honor the people who serve alongside you? And maybe that's an opportunity for you this week to really go back and and have a conversation with someone who serves alongside you in some capacity to let them know how much you value what they bring to your organization, whatever that might be. Look, maybe it's your family. Maybe it's a volunteer organization that you're part of or a professional organization. And if it is your team, can you honor those people? And then number four, release responsibility. This is the hard part. This is why so many people never move from level 3 to level 4. They call themselves control freaks. That's what they call themselves, control freaks. Truth be told, they don't trust. Maybe they don't trust themselves as a leader. Maybe they don't trust that they've articulated their standards and really equipped their people in order to be able to empower them, right? Delegation is not easy unless you find the right people and develop them. That's what level 4 is all about. But this is why most people in small businesses, for sure, don't get out of level 3. Now, I'm sure it happens at the corporate level. I'm sure there are people who run teams at the corporate level and they still have to have control over everything. But that's not who I'm talking to today. I'm talking to a bunch of small business owners who really struggle moving from level 3 to level 4 because delegation scares the crap out of them. And so, if that's you, then I would ask you to really think, have I truly articulated my standards? And have I built a system, or have I come along somebody who can build a system that's going to allow me to delegate? And have I built enough trust with my people? Right? Have I brought the right people onto my team, into my organization? Do I not trust them because they're the wrong people? I hired for proximity, or I hired because I needed to lift some responsibility off of my shoulders, or are they truly the right people? And so, what responsibility are you holding on to that someone else is ready to lead? Someone else is ready to lead. So, I want you to think about that. It could just be a little wake-up call. So, I took those four things and I put them into ChatGPT. Y'all, I'm seeing on, I'm only on LinkedIn, and pray for me because I'm just not great at these platforms. But I see all of these kind of graphics out there now, and I know where people are getting them. They can be super helpful. But if that helps you, that's how it goes. Recruit the right people, develop them before you need it, and then honor those people and then release. That's the key. And where a lot of people struggle is in the release. So let me give you some questions to think about before I give you your challenge for the week. Who are the 5 people who most influence your leadership today? Now, they could be your team that you've already built. They could be just other leaders that you look to, but I really want you to write down 5 names. The people that you spend the most time with, that have the greatest level of influence over you. Now, these may be people you know personally. Hopefully, a majority of them are. But maybe they are a voice that speaks into you, right? That's one of my goals through the 126 Collective, is to become a person that influences the leadership of other people. So it could be somebody like that. It could be, someone famous that you listen to, but hopefully at least 3 of those 5 are people that are in your immediate world. But can you write down the names of 5 people who most influence your leadership today? When I asked this question yesterday during the leadership game, some people, I mean, really struggled. And in fact, one of the ladies said that, and this was an early question. The leadership game plays like a game, so people are, rolling a dice and drawing cards. And so this was pretty early on in the conversation. And she said, essentially, if I don't get anything else out of today, I realized I don't have people. I don't have people. She said the people I spend the most amount of time with are not leaders. They're not givers. They're takers. And they all sort of rely on me. And so, you've probably heard it said, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So, if you don't have five people that you can name, this is a wake-up call. How are you going to grow into the leader that you may feel like you're called to be if you don't even have people that are influencing you? Okay, so hopefully you got five names. And then number two, which relationships consistently make you stronger? Right? How do we get stronger? Well, maybe there's people smarter than us that challenge us. Or maybe they're Abigails who are willing to say, hey, hey, I got to call you up. Maybe there's Samuels who speak very clearly and who speak very forcefully to challenge you, right? Maybe they are people that your desire and willingness to support and encourage them naturally lifted your leadership lid, right? There were people who needed you to come alongside of them and support them, challenge them, encourage, and that made you stronger. So it can come from both directions, but which are the ones that consistently make you stronger? Number three, it's a great question. Are you surrounding yourself with people who challenge you or who simply agree with you? I had a client a while back who did not seem to like the fact that I challenged them. And so they're not my client anymore. Because if I can't challenge my clients, they don't need another yes person. Most people who get into a position of influence, whether it's sales or leadership of some sort, they got enough yes people. That can feel good from time to time. I need some yes people in my life too. But not when it comes to my growth, right? So are you surrounding yourself? And look, some people intentionally build teams filled with yes people. I worked for that guy in corporate America. And I got the beat down one time after a board meeting when I challenged him respectfully, but I just simply disagreed and asked a question, and I got the call to the office with the "how dare you challenge me" thing. I quit. I quit. Okay. I don't want to be around people who just need me to blow smoke up their skirt, and I don't want to surround myself with people that want to do the same for me. So, who are you surrounding yourself with? And if your organization doubled in size tomorrow, after you stop jumping up and down in delight, and went online and started shopping, please don't do that. But if your organization doubled in size tomorrow, if your business doubled, who would help carry that load? And if you don't have a name, also a wake up call. You got to get some people in your world, even if you don't have a position to hire them for today. You need to start working with them now. Don't wait. So I'm going to ask you for this week, um, uh, because you may not be ready to build a team. So I want to help you reframe, what does team building look like if I'm not ready to hire somebody? That's a real reframe. A lot of the people that I work with are in real estate, are in a world where there's a lot of talk about teams. And I'm using air quotes because it's not really a team. It could be, but it not always is. Oftentimes, it's somebody who wants to spend a lot of money to run advertisements and generate cold call opportunities for people who then work for them and do that. It's like they're working in a call center, or like a sweatshop. And there are a lot of leadership teams. I saw the billboards yesterday in St. Augustine for a group that's what they do. And so I've known people who worked for that quote team and left and went to a different real estate company because essentially it was a sweatshop. That I don't consider that a team. You got two people at the top, their faces on the billboard, their faces on all the signs, and then they have a lot of minions who basically do whatever they are told to do. I don't think that's a team. I'd rather not have anybody under my direct employ, but we're all helping each other to grow. They're challenging me to become a better leader, and I'm challenging them to step up, because eventually somebody in that group is going to say, how do we join forces to do more? Right? And that's, I think, a much better way to think about building a team. So for this week, my challenge for you is to choose something. Who needs a greater investment in your inner circle, right? Who needs that from you? And then where are the gaps? So you're going to pick one of these. Maybe you need to just sit down and say, okay, if I'm truly building a team, where are the gaps in my organization? Or maybe it's number three. You think about who could become a future mighty man or mighty woman if someone just believed in them. See, I gotta believe that if you decided to invest some of your energy pouring into someone that you think may be overlooked or may have potential that others haven't recognized, um, but you decided to pour into them based on your own experience, based on your own successes, that there's a virtuous a cycle that would begin to build as you become a better leader. Then you start doing more of whatever it is that you do in your career. And then as that opportunity grows, your opportunity to build your own team grows. Does that make sense? Like once upon a time, I might have said something like, it's the law of attraction here, like attracts like. But what I would say now is I believe that if you were going to take that step and move into becoming a leader, someone who leads, builds, and grows other leaders, someone who builds people, that ultimately you will find that your opportunities increase for you to build your own team. Does that make sense? Because I truly believe that that great leaders don't build organizations; they build people, and that's what I believe that each and every one of us is called to do. John Maxwell says God's gift to us is our potential, and our gift to God is realizing that potential. And I believe if you show up for the 126 Collective, it's because you believe that you have more potential as a leader, because that's what we're talking about. People are not showing up to these calls unless at some level they consider themselves invited into the leadership conversation, called into a position of leadership, or they want to become a leader or a better leader. Maybe they already have their organization. So, as we kind of wrap up here, I want you to think about these five people that you've written their names down. And then think about the other people that are in your world today. And I would challenge you that if the people around you are not making you better, you need to get around some other people, right? The Bible says that iron sharpens iron. And we all know that's true, right? So we need to be around people that make us better people. Now, some of the people that are not making you a better person, you can't not be around them. They're in your family or they live next door. I get it. I get it. There's some challenges there, but I'm not suggesting that you wipe people out of your life. I am suggesting you may need to up level your peer group. You may need to up level your leadership team. And so if you don't have those people, like this young lady said to me yesterday, then I said, then your homework is simple. You got to go find the people that you respect and you got to get into relationship with them. Proximity is power. Proximity is power. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's been inspiring. I hope it's been encouraging. And mostly, I hope it's been challenging because I think that regardless of what you believe about what's going on in any facet of our world today, we need great leaders. We need great leaders. I listened to this morning to a 14-minute speech from the Reverend Dr. Billy Graham from 1967. Now, that's almost as old as I am. I was born in 64. So, I mean, this thing is 60 years, 60 years old at this point. But this is there's not one word he said that you couldn't assume that he said it yesterday. It was fascinating. And so I told someone earlier, the good news is that, now might feel like, oh my gosh, this is the worst it's ever been. Not really, because 60 years ago, Billy Graham was saying the same thing, and I'm sure 60 years before that, and so on and so forth. So that's the good news. The bad news is we got a lot of work to do. right? The world needs great leaders. John Maxwell says everyone deserves to be led well, and I agree. So, who are we waiting for? Who are we waiting for? Pastor Joby Martin at the Church of 1122 in Jacksonville says when people say, "Hey, we need," fill in the blank, he says it this way: "Hey, Scooter, who's this we?" Maybe it's you. Maybe it's you. And I love that. So come on, Scooter. We all need to get out there and be leaders because the world needs us to show up. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you have a great week, 2 weeks. And your next 126 collective will be from my camper because I'm about to hit the road again on the 25th, no, the 27th for 6 weeks in the beautiful mountains of Yellowstone National Park, Glacier National Park, and the Grand Tetons. So hopefully I can set up where you guys can maybe see some mountains or something in the background, but I will look forward to seeing you then. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, share this with somebody who needs it. Everybody needs it. Bye.